I'm running a little late today. It's funny how easy it is to end up running late. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I thought today we would do some springy stuff. And I don't know, I was thinking about I'm just going to start drawing until I can form words, sentences, brain. So I was thinking about how, you know how plants will grow anywhere. They'll come up between the cracks in a sidewalk. Hey, Mario, bro. Well, yeah. I'll tell you what, I remember when Sonic came out. So speaking of very old, man, I remember Sonic. It felt like so crazy because Mario, very similar to Sonic in a lot of ways. Pardon me. Especially the way I played Mario. I'm a speed runner type of, that's my favorite style of play. And so that's how I played Mario. Let's see how friggin' fast we can beat this Mario game. Which, lovely. Love it. Would recommend it. Would recommend. Really fun. Do it to it. So I thought I would do a glass bottle with some, it's a broken glass bottle and there's plants growing out of it. And I remember Sonic, the whole idea being to rush felt great. And hidden, the way things were hidden in the levels also was really, really neat. I feel like you did have that in some of the other Marios, but not quite in the same way as Sonic 1 or 2. And then I mean Sonic and Knuckles and Sonic 3 having tails. There's nothing like that. But when that came out, that was something else. Something else entirely. All right, so we have the dirt on the inside here. We'll do some more stuff with the glass in the background if we add color or when we add color. And then I'm just going to do, a lot of the times when you have something like this, it shoots up really high. Because it's trying to get, because the type of plant that will grow in this situation will shoot up really high. So we're growing scallions. We always do this where we buy scallions or we buy something like a fresh herb or something. And then we eat however much we want, and then we plant the rest. And so we have some scallions growing in the... Oh, yeah. Hey, Oddfud. Man, those special stages, so fun. Sonic. Yeah, so we just stick the scallions, or we've done it with basil, I think, and something else. And you just stick it in the... You can stick it in water often, but you stick it in a little bit of dirt. I just saw a post online. I don't know if it's old or whatever, but it was like, if you find a leaf on the ground at the garden center and you take it home and you grow that, that's stealing. Bro, how? If you pick up trash and you make it something useful, that's actually stealing from us. It's you know that there's companies that help make, hey, Chris, I'm just drawing a plant growing out of a broken bottle. I'm doing some spring stuff, and I thought this feels really spring to me. I think spring often gets this idea of it's super bows and sunshine and little rabbits and stuff like that. But I always think about spring as being spring can be pretty badass because it's that's the season when the plants will break through the ground and that's funny. plants will break to the ground and like rip up sidewalks, and like spring is when the plants have power. All right, I'm gonna add some dirt and some. Let's add some color to this since we're here. I'm gonna do. So I grew up surrounded by acres of woods. I think it was mostly. It's so hard to tell, but I think most of the woods were planted relatively recently. Like this is something I never thought about as a kid. To me, like the woods had just always been there. But now as an adult, I think about it and I look at old like records and stuff, and you can see like a lot of the things that I thought were always there were actually like planted and like felt natural to me, were actually like planned and put into place by people. And that's so strange. When you're a kid, you don't think about that kind of stuff. Okay. So I think that's good for the glass for now. We'll do more in a minute. Let's take some brown for this dirt. And we'll come back and we'll do both of these more in a bit because I think we're gonna add some black to the dirt to make it, look like it's really old and really rich. And then let's do that's true. Spring, that's why I think spring gets that kind of reputation, right? But then I haven't done very much research, but I have heard of Easter, who is the like what we name Easter after, is a pagan god of some repute. Like I genuinely do not. Ooh, that works nice. I always have light coming from the same direction. Whop. That's not true. I guess I also have it coming from there. And I want to do more research on this Easter goddess because I think she's pretty badass. Sometimes, like, the holidays that the Christians have borrowed from. Oh my God, Pi Day. I forgot. I think I have a video already ready to come out already on Pi Day already. Oh no, that comes out on Tau Day. I should do a video for Pi Day. Do you guys know Pi Day? 3.14, March 14th. It's the day after tomorrow, I think. Okay, let's get some. I'm going to sharpen this guy. So it's not spring yet, to be fair. Spring starts in a couple of weeks. It's still winter. But it's starting to feel like spring. It is hot today. It was supposed to be cold. I dislike the winter because you're always like, hey, Tazuk. Oh man. Hopefully that everyone was in on the prank or, was thought it was funny. I don't mind pranks. I think they're pretty fun as long as like everyone's chill. I used to be much more pranky. I used to do many more pranks. But Oddfudd is not a huge fan, and like that's fine. Uh, no judgment. It's just because I spend so much of my time with her, it's hard to like who am I gonna prank? Right? If I'm not pranking my wife, which is fine, like again, that's totally okay. Then um, you know, I will prank my friends every once in a while, but it's not I'm not spending as much time with them. Ooh, capybara? Sure. I think I will actually. I uh I often draw a lot of animals. And capybara so friggin' like it's crazy, man. They fill that niche where they just like don't really have like I know they have predators, but they're so big and like I don't know. Like I haven't done a lot of research on them, but like they hang out with the crocodiles and they just do not care. And like they do get eaten every once in a while, but not really. It's pretty and they're big enough. I don't know. They are friggin' neat. Okay, so I do a series called Animals in Hats. I don't remember. I know I've drawn capybara before, but I don't remember what um if I put a hat on them. Oh, that's neat. I've never seen I don't think I've ever seen one in person even. We just went to our local park and they have like a little animal enclosure, which I did not know about. I'm just gonna quick give finish with this black and then we will start on the capybara. Oh, cool. That's like hippos. Hippos love watermelon. Okay. Oh yeah, and then the capybara, they have the babies on their backs and they'll do what's the other one? They'll do like birds on their backs too. Hang on. Let me just get a sip of water. My desk is a mess. You guys don't see. You guys see the only clean part of my desk. Oh, okay. We'll leave this to the side for now. I think capybara are springy enough. They're the biggest rodent, right? Capybara, like, because they grow really big, don't they? Okay. I think it's finally starting to rain. It feels like really oppressively warm, like humid here. Okay, let's see. And there's a head. Their little ears like this. Is this going to be big enough? I might have to move my camera. It doesn't matter. Usually I'm zoomed in more. That eye is dumb, but we'll get there. We'll get there. I'm just bringing the eraser to threaten the eye. I can tell you're dumb, eye. Little tail. Okay. Yeah, Yeah, I'm trying to think what kind of hat we should put on it for sure, for sure. Um, like I said, I do really love the animals and hats. I have a whole series, and I think I may have done a capybara. So what I do is I draw lots of animals. I draw lots of animals and hats. The ones I like, the ones I think are good, they end up in the series in the collection. And I'd say most of the ones that I draw end up in the collection. I'm pretty sure I've drawn a capybara, but it didn't end up in the collection. Oh, top hat's a good idea. I'm trying to think if there's any like Easter hat, spring, like a spring type hat that I could do. Okay. Man, so I think this is the right placement for the eye. It just looks funny. Let me try clearing the ear, making the ear a little bit better proportioned, clear some of these guidelines. That sometimes helps. Oh, I should be using my. I usually have a piece of paper to keep me from smudging. I don't see it. Dang it. Oh, shoot. Here it is. Here it is. Okay. Okay, that looks better. I think there's a couple other people. There's some people who come in and basically don't speak. Gang Mario is usually in and out. Odd Fudd is usually in and out. Sometimes they're very chatty, and sometimes it's like lives. Sometimes the lives are very chatty, and sometimes I'll be like, "Oh, there was nobody there," and then I get off, and at the end, when I finish streaming, it tells me like it gives me stats, right? And so every once in a while, I'll be like, "This was a hard live. Nobody was there. I feel really like down about it," which is it's silly because I'm still getting work done even if there's nobody in the live, but it it can still feel like a way. And then it'll be like, this is a great live. You had 400 people stopped by and like 25 people were there at the same time. And I'll be like, what? It did not feel that way. It didn't tell me any of that. And so I think it's just, it can be, this nose is crooked, I think. Yeah, something like that. We'll do the nose after. We'll come back. That's right. Okay, let's figure out a hat. I think a top hat's not bad, but I would want it to be like really tiny. I feel like I do top hats a lot, but let's do a top hat with a flower. We'll do like almost a Seussian top hat. We'll let his ears still be there. Oh, I'm sorry, Tazuk. It's sometimes it's like that, you know? Like this because this is kind of shaped like a boot. I kind of want to do a boot. I'm going to try a boot. Oh no, because I do want to put a flower in it. Okay, we'll keep it as a top hat so I can put a flower in it. Let's have it. Okay. And then I think, oh, should we look up a Brazilian flower, something that's local to capybara? We should. We shouldn't just um, we shouldn't just do a random flower. It would be funny if we did like a tulip or something international on the capybara. What's a good flower from Brazil? Or, South America. Of course, my It's telling me hibiscus, but I thought that was not from there. Oh no, it's no problem. I was just saying, um, it can be hard uh, to make connections with people and stuff. Well, okay. I'm looking for a Brazilian flower that we could put on top of this capybara. Okay, there's an orchid. We could do an orchid. It's not easy, but if it's gonna work. Okay, orchids, orchids, orchids. Orchids are interesting because they're so hard to draw. They're just very complicated. And complicated things can be because I like to try to make things as simplified as possible, as like I cartoonify things. And in doing that, because I learned my illustration, I started as a graphic designer. And in a lot of that, you are trying to get things down to their like simplest form that can be understood, especially from a distance and stuff like that. And so when I draw really complicated things sometimes, I'm like, oh, this is not terrible, not terrible. I mean, it's good. I like it. I told myself a couple of days ago that I was going to stop saying this isn't that bad or this isn't terrible because I realized I say it all the time and that can't be healthy. Every time I draw something, I'm like, well, this isn't the worst thing I've ever drawn. Like, shut up. Sorry. Like me, not you. Not you guys. It's I don't know why I'm like that. So I'm gonna stop. Eh, all right. Okay, we're gonna do that like fabric band. Maybe we'll I think that's good. I don't I'm not thrilled with this. I think we'll just leave that part out. The like the top of the hat. It's just not there. Like that's fine. Oh no. That's that's not good. Like listen, it's great to have people tell you things are good or bad as long as they're kind about it. But it's like to have someone rip your stuff. I mean, I think you mean physically rip and not just make fun of. I think either is kind of bad. Um, oh, this little capybara. So my wife is Oddfoot, and we've been together since we were in high school. And I at times had criticized her work. She had told me like, "Oh, do you want to read my work?" And I thought I was the bee's knees. I thought I was hot shit. And so in my mind, she was asking me if I wanted to critique her work, right? But she wasn't, right? She was just sharing something she liked and she was proud of with me. I didn't know that. And so when I critiqued her work, she was rightly upset with me because that's not what the deal was. I was just supposed to read it and enjoy it or not enjoy it, whatever. That was up to me. But I was not supposed to tell her I thought it was good or bad or whatever. Or, how to make it better, etc. I could tell her if it was good or bad. And I think, especially a lot of the times, that can be something that is confusing. But it's always best to lead with kindness. Should we do a bird here too? Let's do it. I don't know what kind of birds are. What kind of birds sit on the back of capybara? I've definitely heard of them doing that. Whoa. I was just looking for guys sitting on top of the capybara, and there's like monkeys. Okay, we'll skip the birds for now. I think this is pretty good. Let's clean it up a little. Pigeon? All right. Let me see. Okay, I looked it up. There's this one that looks really weird that I kind of want to do, especially because it's like yellow, which makes it look. Ay, ay, ay. Oh, thank you, thank you. Okay, there's this, there's this, there's this bird. It's very simply birdie, which is great, but also it's like bright yellow, and it looks like it sits on top of the capybara pretty frequently. And I think a yellow bird is good for the piece. It's not hitting. It's not coming together. I might skip the bird for now. Can always add it later. All right, let's get some color on at least the flower. Oh yeah. I have a violet pencil. We'll get that going. Oh, yeah, we could do a baby capybara. We can try at least. We'll see how that goes. I think I think that's probably better than the bird even. I'm holding my breath trying to make sure I get get this violet right. Okay, let's get some green for the stem. I'll sharpen. Oh, I'll sharpen this guy too. It's not really sharp enough, but I stopped sharpening it. Okay. All right. And I kind of want to do, well, let's do like a pink band. So a lot of times with top hats, we mostly see like the old stodgy dress ones, and like then that was the norm, but there were these ones where you could change out this band, this this fabric band, and some people would wear them. Well, some people would wear top hats like helmets, which is also really interesting. They were very, very hard, and they would protect you sometimes in the case of um, like a fall off a horse or something like that, something falling onto your head. Like, I didn't know this for a very long time, but top hats in some ways were like a practical, were used practically as like protection. All right, so I know one other factoid about top hats, and it's kind of about Abraham Lincoln instead of a top hat. But so Abraham Lincoln famously wore a top hat, and he was famously assassinated. He one time was riding his horse in the middle of the night. I can't remember from where to where, but it was like there had been it was late, and people were like, we already have credible, like, people want to kill you, right? Like, we have heard about this. What do you like? Don't go riding horses in the middle of the night without protection, and like the Secret Service doesn't exist yet, so we don't even have protection for you. And he was like, nah, man, I'm not gonna live my life in fear of these like cowards who are threatening to kill me because they can't, like, their ideas are so unpopular and so bad that they're not can't go through the normal channels, right? Because Abraham Lincoln, he was just like that. Anyway, he goes for the ride. He falls asleep on his horse, which I guess was a common thing. I did not know that. Like, people would ride long distances and fall asleep on their horse, and their horse would bring them the rest of the way. He gets to the place, and he has a bullet hole in his top hat. Bloop. And now it's unclear if it was meant for him particularly because it was dark and um, that kind of thing, or if it was just like somebody messing around. And, it would have, if it was anybody, because we never caught the person, they never know. They don't have any real evidence of what it was, but they do have that top hat. Well, I don't know if they still have the top hat, but they did have that top hat. Yeah, it's a crazy story. I could not believe I did not hear about it. Like, I was doing research on, I think, top hats genuinely when I learned about it. And I was like, why did I not ever hear about this before? That's crazy. Okay, so I'm going to do the top hat with a little bit of blue underneath, and then we'll do the black on top of that to give it kind of like a just some extra color, extra dimension. Top hats were usually pretty shiny also. Like I said, they were really hard. Like, they were um, very robust, very structured. Okay, let's get the black out. Okay, then we're gonna do a baby on board. You know what? I'm gonna do a little bit more cleanup here. And get these. I just have really thick pencil, and that's fine, but I think it'll look better if we clear out some of that gray. We can replace it with color, or not replace it. I love good pencil work, but this is just a little thick. That's the ear. Okay. go back in and just clean that up. Look, that's violet. I want the blue. Here we go. This is the violet. I wanted this one. That's fine. Yeah, the more I learn, so I research for both. I make shorts that I talk about like weird historical facts, and then I also just for fun will research. I like you can find a bunch of magazines, um, at least in English from the like 20s, and they're all in the public domain. I think all of them are in the public domain. I think magazines are 96 years, so anything from the 20s or before is you can use stuff in them for your own art and your own purposes. And so sometimes I'll read through there like looking for ideas and stuff too. Okay, I think that's pretty good. And I'll read about stuff that like I just did not know. Uh, or sometimes you go to the local libraries and they will have like local history that like is completely forgotten that people just don't remember anymore. We did this in my hometown, which is an old town in New York. Oh yeah, please enjoy your tea. It's important. Thanks for stopping by. And I think I'll probably finish and turn into a real print. So if you follow me, um, you'll see more of this guy. Because I like this a lot. I'll probably scan them in and do some more work on them. There we go. I think that's pretty good. We ended up not doing a baby capybara or a bird or anything. I think that this is a full piece. We'll do some ground. Yeah, yeah, a very distinguished capybara. I think you're right. I think he's very he's a cool dude. Do a little fur here. I know, like I said earlier, I know I drew a capybara with a hat before, but I didn't like him. I'm really happy I decided to do it again. Good request. I think he really worked out. I'll probably do some more color and clean up digitally, scan them in, but it's close to finished, I'd say. Now it's fun. I've been working on these guys. I sat down today to do like spring stream, and then I started thinking about how like we always talk about spring as out of like the life that spring starts, like, there's like eggs and little bunnies running around, and it's all about, oh man, I did not finish my coffee. I need more coffee. It's all about like the start of new things. That's great. It is about that. But what I never really think about, and what I was thinking about today, is how like the start of those things are also from the um like the decay and the death and the like old things, right? That are like falling apart or old. So that's what I was thinking about when I drew this guy just before I did the capybara. It's like there's a seed that fell into here. I mean, actually, maybe I'll do another one on the outside. A seed that fell into here, and then it sprouted. I was thinking about how like cracks in the sidewalk. All right, I finished my coffee. Maybe I'll be able to talk better. So I grew up in the woods, and we would always find bottles from like 50, 60 years ago at the time, which would be more than like 100 something years old now, probably. And I'm just trying to see if I can draw a broken bottle half here. I don't know if I can. Yeah, exactly, CD. That's what I was thinking about that for spring. I drew like a skull with like flowers and stuff around it, and then I really liked it, and I keep drawing a version of it. Um, and then that made me think about how that's like a very spring um type of drawing. And then I was thinking about the broken bottle and but I read a book, Ender's Game, years ago. The author I am not a fan of. The book is good. And I don't remember if it's the first book in the series or in one of the books though, he is dealing with an AI. And this was written in the 80s, I think. So well before we were actually dealing with AI. And he kills the AI, he destroys it, he unalives it. And it's an AI, so it doesn't actually become unalived. God, I wonder if I said a bunch of keywords in the beginning of the stream. um, but then because the whole world that he's playing in is AI generated. His AI is no AI generated is right, procedurally generated. Instead of actually being dead, there's this big, like giant, and time in the AI world that he's spending time in. Like it's basically a video game world. It's a and time in that. This looks like a mess. Um, Moves faster than time outside. And so what happens is where that giant was. Oh, thank you. Thank you. ends up being like the giant gets covered, the bones get covered, plants start growing, and it was one of the first kind of scenes ever painted for me where like the decay and the death start. Oh yeah, what if we do? I was trying to do like the bottle half buried and like going off, but what if it's just like a bit here? Um, there's like just like that, just a little bit, and it can be a little bit strangely shaped because old bottles are often very strangely shaped. But that was my experience in real life, right? I grew up in the woods, and so I would go out into the woods a lot. I grew up in the woods sounds like I didn't have a home. Sounds like I was raised by wolves. Um, but I grew up in the woods. Where's, is it this green? I think, yeah. And you would see this all the time, right? Like a tree falls down, and then there's a bunch of animals living in it, and then the moss grows on it, and the fungus grows on it, and then all of a sudden there's bugs living inside of it, and then from there it turns into dirt, and you could literally see the tree over the years turning into dirt. And so, I don't know, so that scene of the giant, which, you know, is a human in a way, like rotting away and turning into the next part of the story for this character, for Ender and Ender's Game. This is what I was thinking of. Just really sat with me as like, oh, that's really real. Yeah, I'm from New York, United States. I live there now again. Um, I've lived in Pennsylvania. I've lived in New York. I've lived in mostly Pennsylvania and New York, but I have lived in a couple other places, Vermont, Seattle. I found out recently, oh, thank you. I found out recently that the place I live had, or the place I grew up had a micro accent, which I find fascinating. Because I knew I didn't speak like the people around me, or the people, like when people, okay, so I grew up on Long Island. And when people talk about people from Long Island, they do not sound like me. And most of the people I knew did not sound like the popular idea of people from Long Island. Not nobody. There were some people. Whoop, beard. And so I was always like, that's so strange. Like, I wonder why my accent is so different from the Long Island accent you hear on TV or like mostly TV, I guess. And so I was watching a YouTuber who talks a lot about this kind of thing. You know what? I'll shout him out. I was watching Edinger. Oh gosh, I don't know how to say his name, but Evan Edinger, and he's a someone from New Jersey who now lives in the UK, and he does really great content about what that's like. And he had an accent map up because he was trying to explain his accent because he also has an interesting accent where he sounds a little British for certain words he says. And people are like, "Oh, you've lived in the UK for so long, you're starting to sound British." And he's like, "Oh no, that's." And now I'm just explaining his video. But anyways, like, nope, that's actually just how I always spoke. So then he was showing, let's do an accent map. And it's all like, large chunks of the map show big accents. And then all of a sudden there was like the one chunk, it was like, big things of the map for big accents. And then the place I grew up is like this. And it's like, that's one accent. And it was like, oh, interesting. Okay, let's add a flower or two, or at least something. Let's add something. These look like daffodils, but a lot of things kind of look like daffodils when they're first coming up. So it could be a lot of things. I do like that. We could also add, sometimes just like adding color blocking in the back looks good. Can like help paint the scene. Yeah, I find accents fascinating, especially because my experience with them has been so strange. And I think that's true probably for everybody's. I don't think like my experience is especially unique, but like, okay, so my family moved to that area when my mom was a child. And then I was raised by my mom and my grandmother. And my grandmother had lived in New York City, her whole life until her like mid 40s. And that's when she moved out to Long Island. But her mother, my grandmother's mother, was from Ireland. And I think that's pretty normal for people to have this type of really complicated accent history. But sometimes I wonder, I knew people whose families had lived in the town I grew up in for 6, 7 generations. And like they had a very unique accent usually. Uh, and like sometimes I wonder like what that must be like to not move, to have your family be the same place, the same sometimes the same house for generation after generation. And then like what, so their accents, I can't do a great impersonation. I used to do this impersonation all the time, so I was a little bit better at it, but I can't do a great impersonation of the accent now, but it's like uh gosh, I'm trying to get into the gonna go down to the big gonna go down the way get some fish, bub, like that. And it's like very fast, very like muffled, very interesting vowels. Super, super different. A lot of people think it's sounds British, but like I don't know exactly where in the UK. Not the standard British, not received pronunciation, but like some of the like northern area. All right. I'm liking this. I think it's time to draw something new. How long have we been going? 55? Okay. You know what's something else? Like, speaking of decay and... Oh, let's do a bird skull. I think that'll be good. I was thinking about doing a bird skull before. Okay, so we have this guy. This, in camera, I think this looks better um, than it does in person, which is great because that's... But like that reflection and everything, I really like that. Oh, we should do a reflection here. Pow, 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 pow. All right, I want to look at it. I want to look at a bird skull. Yeah, yeah, that's what I think. Like, no, I used to have a like a better guess, but I can't think of it right now. It's been a long time since I've heard the original accent, and then I don't. I like follow a lot of British accents. I think I'm very interested. I'm okay at the larger, like, I know some people who can't tell Scottish from like Southern British or from Welsh from Irish, but I'm an accent, but I'm much better at that over the years. I've learned a lot. But like that kind of like mumbly swallowing your words, like I know that you see that in some like TV shows where they're talking about like a specific place, but I can't think of. Let's do a crow. Okay. So I want to do a crow skull, but I wanted to. Okay. But it also, like a lot of the US, especially the East Coast, um, has direct ties to the UK, right? Like it were settled by the English in the 1600s and early 1700s. And I think about that a lot. I don't I read a lot of history, like local history. I like to get into that. Okay. So that's where the eye is, and there's a huge hole for the eye. The eyes of a crow take up so much of their skull compared to their brain. And it's interesting because they're so dang smart. I have a story about crows. So house cats are one of the most deadly um, predators. I forget why. I forget the exact statistic. I forget why. But it's like they they just kill billions and billions of birds and rodents and stuff like that. And I mean that's a big part of why humans domesticated them. Oh yeah. Yeah, maybe. I'm trying to think. No, that's Liverpool. Yeah, Brummie's that's like Manchester, right? That's is that what I'm thinking of? Wait. So my cat murdered a crow. And like honestly, Birmingham, of course. I was like, no, because that's I knew the Manchester is a different. I've heard this the what is it, demonym? I've heard that, and it's not Brummy. I knew I was wrong, but I could not think of. Yes, that makes more sense. Okay, so in my head, I was thinking of Manchester, and I was thinking then of Liverpool, which is just completely unrelated, but it's like a common accent that Americans do sometimes because of the Beatles. And so it was in my mind. But Birmingham, Brummy, that makes more sense to the accent that I was doing. Thank you for that info. So I was sitting on the front deck, and or maybe I was inside. It doesn't matter because we had huge windows, so you could see outside. And all of a sudden, I hear a thump and this like really loud noise. And from the sky, my cat falls out of the sky with a crow, with a dead crow. And he had been hunting in the trees for a while. So it was pretty clear that that's what had happened, that he had um, grabbed a crow from the trees and brought it to the ground. So we weren't very happy. We like crows. So we were like, "Oh man, this really sucks." We had tried to put bells on him before, and it just was not working. He would take them off pretty much right away, and you know, so this was when I was a kid, so not my cat, but my cat, my family's cat. I'm trying to think, what's a good? What if we do like so early spring? You have like buttercups and you have irises. Buttercups are really just like little yellow. I think they're four petal flowers, maybe five. And then what do irises look like? Kind of like trumpets, like purple, little purple trumpets. They're both about this size compared to a crow's skull. Anyway, so every time he went outside, so after he murdered this crow, he was there. Like we had like 30 or 40 crows that would just hang out outside for like more than a week. And every time he came outside, they would scream at him. And they really hated that cat. He made enemies of the crows, and he was enemies with those crows for a very long time. Forever, probably, because crows will spread that information to the next generation, which we do not know how they do, but they must have language because they will do it even without being in contact. Okay, let's get some more detail on this. Let's just let's make this a little bigger and let's make it darker because it's a hole. Let's have that. That's definitely buried. We'll do the holes in here. We'll make these dark. And then let's... Yeah, yeah, he really messed up. Um, yeah, it was astounding because I didn't know that this about crows, but it seemed like they had held a funeral for the crow. And then years later, I found out that crows do, in fact, hold funerals. And then they definitely held a grudge. And like years later, I also found out that crows not only will they hold a grudge, but they will tell their children and their children's children about the things that, like the people and the animals that have, that they don't like. And so like they're very, very smart. Yeah, and then for weeks, like every time anyone left the house, they would be screaming, especially if the cat was there, but you would go outside and it would just be crows cawing. It's like it's burned into my memory. This because we had that, like we had oak trees, and you would look up into the trees in the backyard and there would just be 30 to 100 crows depending. And it was crazy. Let me see if I can kind of blend this in. This is like a ridge. I'm like going too focused on the skull. I wanted to do some plants around it. I think it's I've done a lot of like sculptures. Not a lot, but I do it in my spare time for fun, as opposed to this. And okay, what do I want to do? Let's do like a bottle cap also here. I want to just I want this to be an interesting but not happy necessarily scene. And I find like skulls and stuff are much easier to sculpt than they are to draw. I guess I find most stuff is easier to sculpt than it is to draw. Yes, yeah. Uh, there's been a couple of examples of this and that have been like reported, and there must be other examples that are not as widely known. Because there's a few that have been like studied where it's usually it's usually little girls, but it can be anybody. The ones that get reported on are young women, young girls, that they feed and they befriend crows, and then the crows start like bringing them stuff. Um, this one girl fed them cat food, and they followed her to a new house. Um, and they would give her like jewelry that they had found and money that they had taken, because like crows also understand that things are valuable. I said valuable, that things are valuable. And so there's like, I don't remember if it's crows or it's a different corvid, but there's corvids in like Japan who like know that credit cards work vending machines. So they will steal credit cards and then try to figure out how to put them in vending machines. Like they are incredibly smart. It makes me think about how like I was taught in school that like animals are not really fully conscious. They're not people, right? And I think I don't agree. I think animals are probably people, or at least a decent amount of them are, because like if crows are telling their children and their children's children are, and they're like to the point where a colony of crows will have an enemy that no crow alive in the colony ever met, and they will know who it is, and they will be mean to that. They will avoid or be mean to that enemy, and like how do they? That's culture. Like what? There's no other way to describe that besides culture. It's like I found out doing some reading. Just I was reading some science news or paper. I can't remember, and like um God, why is my brain not telling me what the word is? But mammals, marine mammals like dolphins and whales and stuff, they have names. They have names and they use them. And it's like uh, 'cause, 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 ' There's an example of, I think it's a beluga. I drew a beluga, and I think I did a short about this, but I can't remember. Sometimes I think I do shorts, and then I look and it's not there. Um, but the beluga said a word. He said stop, or it might have been a she. They said stop in English to a diver, and like it was witnessed by another person. It seems like it definitely happened. And that's like beyond our understanding, or it's beyond what we used to believe, like whales and marine, like, what's the word? Not crustaceans, those are crabs. Well, what that family of marine mammals can do. And it just makes me think, like, how much evidence have we ignored or dismissed because of our belief systems? Right? Like, we were always thinking, like, oh, well, like animals can't do that. And then when there's evidence that animals can do that, like eyewitness accounts or circumstantial evidence, they go, well, no, animals can't do that, so that must not be true. And we do that with everything as people. And I think about that a lot because when we can test these things, eventually, because we get better equipment or we have recording equipment so we can actually like verify stuff, or, you know, like somebody who's respectable and has a good reputation, like actually experiences the thing, and then they go, well, yeah, no, this really does happen. And they turn out to be true. So there's an island in Canada on the east coast, I believe, but I'm not 100%. And there was a native history that said they had been there, the indigenous peoples had been there for 6,000 years. And modern science said, well, like, no, like, we're pretty sure that there haven't been people on these islands for 6,000 years. We're pretty sure you guys came over at this time period doing this thing, and like that's our theory. And not only is that, but like it's the truth. Like, as far as we're concerned, it's the truth. And like also oral history, it's just oral history. Like, it's not real. And the natives were like, no, like, you're saying science, right? But our oral history is our science. It is our history. It's not some lesser history. It's just history to us. So then it was a fight about the property, right? So essentially, if the indigenous peoples were correct, then they had a right to this property, to this island. And if the government and modern science was correct, then they would have a better claim to it. Well, not really, but you know. So modern science said, well, we'll do excavation, right? We'll do excavation, archaeology, and we're pretty sure we won't find any evidence of you inhabiting this piece of land, this island. Well, they did the archaeology, and they found exactly the evidence from exactly the time period that the oral history said there would be. And I feel like it's almost always like that. I just think it's interesting how much we try to think of science, and it's good to think of it this way. It's as objective, but we have to remember that the people doing science have beliefs, and even if they try really hard not to let their beliefs influence their assumptions, they still can. We've seen this over and over again with quantum mechanics, where the math and the science says like it's going to be one way, but the scientists go like, "Oh, that can't be right because that's not how we experience the world." And then they do a bunch of experiments and they find out it is right. That is exactly how it goes. I can't think of an example of this off the top of my head, but it's happened a bunch of times. And because of that, quantum mechanics is one of the most scientifically proven, experimentally proven parts of modern physics because it feels so often like that can't be how it works. And so when the math says that is how it works, they do some experiments to like prove that it doesn't work that way. Well, prove one way or another. But often it proves, or almost always it proves that it does work that way. And so that's why quantum mechanics, even though it can feel so strange, is so trusted by physicists, is because it's experimentally proven over and over and over again. And it does say some weird stuff that doesn't feel like that's how it should work. One thing quantum mechanics says, and that they have proven experimentally, is that let's do some brown in here and in here. And let's do a little bit of light brown on the edges of the skull so it'll be a little dirty. So quantum mechanics has one of the results of like the slit experiments and how that all goes together. That also shows like light is a wave and a particle at the same time. One of the conclusions of that experiment, of that fact, is that cause and effect don't always happen, the cause first and the effect second. Sometimes, yeah, that's exactly it, CD. Like it happens even when they're trying not to. And I agree, it worries me not so much that it happens sometimes or that it happens, but that like even when the evidence says they're wrong, some people, and a lot of people, it turns out, double down, triple down, and go, "Oh no, no, it must be, it's like it's the evidence that's wrong, not me." And it's sad. It's a like one place you see it a lot is in the legal system. I know mostly the legal system of the United States, um, but you see evidence of this over and over again, where somebody will basically have evidence that they're innocent, and the people will be like, well, yeah, but they're not. The prosecutors will be like, well, they're not. And they will hide that evidence because they believe this person is guilty so much that even having evidence isn't enough to convince them that they're wrong. And it's relatively common. It's like really it's one of the most disturbing, for me, examples of this happening, because it's like almost more cut and dry than, say, the quantum mechanics, because like at least in physics you can be like, well, yeah, maybe there's science we haven't yet figured out. But in a lot of these things it'll be like there's evidence that the person was 20 miles away, 30 miles away when the crime was committed. They're like on video here. It's like literally impossible for them to commit the crime. And these prosecutors will be like, no, the evidence is made up. Like, I know in my gut they committed the crime. It's disturbingly common to see this. Like, so cause might come after an effect. The fact that people have trouble believing that, I get it. That is not how it feels like we experience, or it's not the story we tell ourselves about how the world works. Oh, thanks, Oddfud. Spring. All right, we did this for spring. We did this. Oh, let's do the ink on this guy too. Oh, I don't remember what. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we could look into it. I'd have to do some. I don't know, actually. I'd have to see. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'll scan them in and um, see if I can put them up. Like, see how the file, there's some graphic design. Chris will have to look into it. That's just me, but wearing a different hat. It's hard to think about like the graphic design side of stuff when I'm in the middle of doing the illustration, and vice versa when I'm doing the graphic design. Sometimes like, how would that even work? Yeah, that's his exactly, exactly. We'll let graphic design Chris figure that out. Yeah, I used to try to do both jobs at once. And while I was illustrating, I would try to think about graphic design. And when I was doing graphic design, I would think like, oh, should I have illustrated this differently and like in the future, blah, blah, blah. And I don't like that. I think it's better to just treat them as two different jobs, as if I'm two different people, basically. This paper is rising up and it's making it harder to make thin lines. Boxers be boxers and briefs be briefs. Yeah. Yeah. There's an expression about like, gosh, I can't remember. It's like the ink never thinks about the pen, something like that. Oh, thank you, Outfit. Thank you so much, CD. Take care. Yeah, I hope to see you again. It was good. It's perfect timing because I'm almost done streaming today anyway. Oh, now I'm just quiet. You know what I'm thinking about? I was thinking about how, like, science changes constantly. And if you don't keep reading the newest information and stuff like that, then you don't know, right? You fall behind very quickly. Like, we were learning stuff in school with textbooks that were only like 5 or 6 years old, and that stuff had been disproven. It's just not true. And there's lots of people out there who never read a science paper, who never read a piece of new information. And like, there was somebody I worked with who was in his late 50s or early 60s, and when I was in my 20s. And he said to me, like, oh, like 4 billion people on Earth, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, well, that's not true. Like, are you trying to say that that's wrong? Like, it didn't make sense to me. I thought maybe he was trying to say, like, sometimes people will exaggerate one way or another in order to prove a point. I thought that's what he was doing. He was like, even if there was only 4 billion people on Earth, it would still work. And there's more than that. So I thought, like, oh, okay, but then he doubled down. And basically, he was like, he really thought that there was only 4 billion people on Earth. And this was like a factoid he had learned. This was in the early 2000s, so in the 2Ks. And this was like a factoid he had learned in the 70s. And so it really blew my mind that this guy didn't think that anything had changed in the last 40 years. And not only did he not think that, like, he doubled down. Like, the doubling down got me. Like, it's fine to, well, it's not really, but it's fine to be dumb and say a fact you learned 40 years ago and be wrong, right? It's not fine to then be like, what? New information? No, I'm going to stick with information that I learned in school. I learned it in school. But you do see people like this frequently. All right, these are my spring drawings. I think I like this one better. We also did this guy. Very fun. Uh, oh, let's do the ink on this guy before I close it, before I call it a day. We'll do, whoop. We'll finish in ink. Our little capybara. And maybe I'll go. I have some audio recordings I should do. But maybe I'll just go to the store. I forget. I had some store stuff to do. I forget what I was supposed to get. It feels crazy. I used to be so precious with my drawings that I would not want to ink like this or even color on a sketch, on a pencil sketch, because I was like, oh, I'm gonna make a mistake and I'm gonna ruin it. And the problem with that was because I thought that way, I would never do it. And if you never do it, then you never get better. And if you never get better, then you're always going to think that way. So it was like a vicious cycle. Vicious. Hang on. Sometimes I have to hold the paper down flat so I can get the pen to just kiss the paint. This one's not going. Hang on. It's humid, and so all the paper is lifting up. I don't want to use this one's the plastic nib. I don't want to use it too much because it's my last one. I go back and forth between this one being my favorite, the plastic nib, and then the graphic one being my favorite, but I think I have like 6 graphic ones. So I use that one more freely. But then also drawing on top of the colored pencil can cause them to clog and stuff like that. Oh, really? I just saw the High School Musical, something else, something about Alice. It was like something something in Wonderland. It looked really good, but it must have been the one before this one, the winter one. It was like $15 for an adult. All right, this was today. Today we did capybara in a top hat with a orchid. Really liked it. Well, if it's the same high school, then that was the ticket prices last time. I like this one a lot. This I think is going to be part of the series, Animals and Hats. Then we have Spring. This is my opinion of Spring. It's right. It's objectively right. Man, this one looks really good in camera. It doesn't look as good in paper, but it might just be because I'm biased. Anti-bias, anti-bias, bias, anti. This was a sketch because I sketch this all the time. This is like when I think about spring, I think about this, and then that makes me think about this. And then that makes me think about this. This, I'm like, I like this one a lot. I want to digitally do some work on this one. I think it would benefit the this guy could look more real, and there's something about the outline of the skull I would like to do a little bit better, but I would also be happy to leave that alone. I mean, obviously I wouldn't. I'm working on it right now. Okay, I should stop because I am supposed to go. I'm supposed to go. I'm supposed to go. I have to like get dressed and leave the house. All right. Thanks everybody. I don't Oddfud, thanks for always being here. People in the future who are watching this, if you're like finishing up because you were in the stream, thank you so much. If you're brand new and you just watched it to see me do the drawings, thank you so much. Please like and subscribe. I like you. Uh, and you'll see more of me drawing these things in person, live, you know, not in person, but live. I think Oddfoot, I think you just unliked the video. All right. Once again, I'm going to close up, but tomorrow is Thursday, so I don't stream usually tomorrow. I'll stream Friday. Friday and or Saturday. So we have capybara, bottle, spring, and crow skull. I think the bottle is my favorite, but it's a close one today. They're all really good. All right. Thanks. Bye.